Here's what I'm convinced of. Like all authoritarians, Donald Trump's embrace of war and regime changes is nothing more than his addiction to power and control. An addiction that's only going to get worse. This is someone who spent years promising not to get the United States involved in any new wars, especially in the Middle East, or go into the business of regime change. Yet he attacked Venezuela, started a war with Iran, and is trying to remove the current government in Cuba, all within the past few weeks. He got a taste of that kind of power, and he loves it. You've seen it with his use of ICE and the National Guard going in the airports. He craves the power to use these forces at his will, to wield any kind of authority he has, especially if it carries an assault weapon or things that go boom, to intimidate, bully, or force others he oppresses into doing what he wants. Which this shouldn't surprise anyone, because this is what Trump has been his entire miserable life. A weak, insecure bully who's always abused his power to hurt others and to get what he wants, whether it be in business, politics, or the bedroom. This is why, when MAGA says it's unfair to compare him to Hitler, it both is unfair and isn't unfair. It's not as if these horrible dictators in our history books started out as what they eventually become. They grew into it over time, becoming more and more dangerous, monstrous, and hungry for power. And as I said before, Trump isn't Hitler, but he's a hell of a lot closer to being Hitler than being Ronald Reagan, or George Washington, or Lincoln, or Roosevelt, or Clinton, or Bush, or Obama. The only thing keeping Trump in any semblance of check right now is the Constitution, which each and every day he tries to erode and destroy to make himself the singular decision maker and wielder of power in this country, just like every other dictator has done in history. From Vladimir Putin to Benjamin Netanyahu, to Xi Jinping, and practically every other autocrat walking the earth today, it's the same playbook. Attack the media, target and silence political opponents, consolidate power, use the military as their personal security force to target who opposes them, even if they're citizens of your own country. Manipulate their followers with over-the-top nationalism, erode trust in democracy to rig elections, label anyone who opposes you as an enemy of this country, gaslight the public and call anything negative that's reported as fake. Everything Donald Trump has done is straight out of the How to Be a Dictator 101. During his first administration, he had adults in the room who worked against these urges, at least initially. But as time went on, he purged those adults from the administration, and towards the end of his first term, he was loudly supported by the same type of sycophants and clowns we are witnessing in Trump 2.0. Now, This president doesn't have those people checking his worst urges. Instead, he's surrounded by people using him as their useful idiot, manipulating him into doing what they want, pandering to his insecurities, and watching him grow into an even bigger monster that history will look back with some shame and embarrassment. Nobody will remember him, and they couldn't care less about his legacy. As long as the unhinged buffoon supports policies in the interest of these con artists, they don't care at all. It's the classic example of the emperor's new clothes. This is why the midterms are so important. We have to establish a branch of our own government that will rein in Trump's power, because he's only going to get worse, especially in 2027 and 2028, when he'll desperately try to stay in the headlines during a period at the end of his presidency when the current president typically steps back and lets the next candidate become the face of the party. Something we know Trump will never be able to cope with. Donald Trump will spend the last 2 years of his presidency doing whatever he can to ensure he's the dominant figure in the headlines every day. That he'll be the one getting all the attention. This makes him very dangerous, because we all see what he's willing to do. He is willing to start a war largely to distract from the Epstein files, a failing economy, and a failing president. So I suggest you all get used to this. I hate to point this out, but it's all too obvious that this, right now, will get worse before it ever gets better. Once these types of tyrants get a taste of this power, it only escalates. Then it only becomes more unhinged. It will only get uglier. But the good news is that November isn't that far away, and we have the chance to effectively end Trump's unchecked power for half his presidency. To do as our founding fathers intended, to have our legislative, co-equal branch of government serve as a system of checks and balances on the executives. CTP, no truth, God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.